Hello, math students. This is Itri Papaniccola, and I am here today to show you a couple of math skills regarding our class and also regarding any class that you take in your journey here once you're done with your GED and you start taking some additional courses with the college. So for today, I wanted to talk about two components that are challenging in our class, but also in any math class that you take. And those are expressions and equations. So I'm going to try and separate those two for you, give you a couple of examples, and try to find some ways to retain those two pieces of information. Expressions and equations are everywhere around us, in every word problem, in every operational problem, in algebra, in geometry, in probability and statistics, in advanced algebra. We write with expressions and we solve them through an equation. Just like in English, we need the alphabet, we need the letters, and then we take the letters and we put them together and we compose. That is how expressions are utilized in our math classes. So let me share my screen here and I will talk about this concept a little bit here as we um, go through this lesson. So let's say that we want to talk about the expressions, right? So I'm going to write here expressions, and we want to talk about what those are, how do we utilize them, and all the good stuff that comes with it, right? So an expression, originally, we would do something like this, where we take a couple of numbers and this is an expression where two numbers are being added together. So of course, 2 + 5 is 7. Simple enough. We can use our calculator. We can use a lot of different tools to actually utilize this answer. But the problem is, what if we don't quite know what's inside the expression? And if we don't quite know that, then we incorporate the variable x. So in math, a lot of times we get intimidated when we see letters. We know what those letters mean as far as English goes and the alphabet and how to utilize them. But in math, when we see the letters X and Y and Z, we think that all of a sudden this is a very tough question. This is a very challenging question. But the reason why we utilize these letters, it's because we do not know the value for that pretty much number. So it's the unknown, it's the X. We don't know that, right? Just like the interest rates, tomorrow, or the gas prices, or the temperature. There's a lot of things that we're not sure what the value will be, but we do know they're there. So when you go and buy a book, you know that you're going to go buy a book. So that's your X. We do not know the value of that book necessarily exactly, but we do know the product. We do know what that is. So that's what the X represents. So if I have 2x plus 5x, and we want to find out what those two correspond to, then this is not any different from 2 + 5, but the X means that there's two books, two apples, two pencils, and then you have five more pencils or five more books, right? They are both identical to one another here, and we know that because we see an X here and an X there, so they are the same kind, and therefore the answer is going to be 7x, because we have two of those x's and then another five of those x's. And again, another way to do this is to say, well, two x's means I have two, let's say I'm labeling the books with an X in them. And then you have five of them here. So I'm going to label them with an X. And you can see now, if you add them all up, you have 7 of those X's, whether they're a soccer ball or an apple or a book, but you labeled it and they are identical to one another. So we could actually add them, but we have to make sure that they are like terms. Pretty much things that could be gathered, could be grouped. That's very, very important. Sometimes things are not gathered, right? What if I have to buy 2 pencils and 5 books at the store? So that is an expression. This is a word problem. We build an expression out of this word problem. So if you like to use the first letter of, the word pencils, P, so you can say I have 2P, and then the symbol, the N symbol here represents plus because you want more. And then you can use the B as the first letter of the word book. So then you can say 5P plus or 5B plus 2P or 2P plus 5B is your expression. So if we have a word problem that says that Mary is going to the store and she's looking to buy 2 pencils and 5 books, then the expression is 2P plus 5B. 2 pencils plus 5 books. Now, do we know the value of the pencil? We don't. Do we know the value of the book? We do not. So if the store has a price attached to the pencil and to the book, which that would be our next goal, is to go to the pencil here. So I'll draw a little pencil right here, and then I'll put a little tag there. And let's say the tag says the pencil is $3. And then I'll draw a little book right here, and we'll put a little price tag on the book, let's say of $10. So now all of a sudden, my expression becomes a little more simple. I have 2 pencils, so 2P, and 5 books, 5B, and therefore I have the prices for the pencil and the price for the book for each book. So what I will do next, it's a very, very cool word. We call it substitution. So that's what happens to the machine when you go to the cashier that scans all the products, right? It substitutes, it replaces each product with the value, with the price. Each product with the price. If the price is missing, the cashier will not know what to do when it comes to that product, right? They'll ask you to go back and find the price of that product. So it's important that now that we know the price of each product, to take that price, to take the 3 and then plug it in here, and take the 10 and plug it in here. So we have 2 pencils. Each pencil is $3 plus 5 books. Each book is $10. So you're spending $6 on the pencils and $50 on the books. 5 times 10 is 50. So you will be spending $56 in total between these 2 pencils and the 5 books. But look how the expression evolved here. Initially, we needed to buy 2 pencils and 5 books. So we created an expression. And the expression is the key here. This is the expression. So this is the expression. We wrote an expression down. That is your building board, right? Your building blocks, the setup of the problem. Sometimes in math, we have a hard time starting a problem. A lot of times my students say, I don't know how to start. I'm reading the problem, but I do not know where to go, how to start. Well, you always want to start with an expression. You always want to write down what are you interpreting from the problem, right? You're translating it. Once you translate it, then the next goal is to replace what those variables are, those unknowns, with what you have attached to those unknowns, what they represent, right? What are they supposed to be as a value? Sometimes it's a value, sometimes it's something else, but that's what the next step is. So then you can actually solve the expression, right? So step number one, when you see word problems, and word problems are intimidating, is to create an expression out of the word problem. Step number two will be now to solve the expression. So let's talk about the next step, which is finding a solution, trying to solve the word problem, right? Can we solve it? So what if they told us that we bought pretty much 2 books and let's say 5 apples. So we needed 2 books and 5 apples, and the total was, let's say, $20. So we spent $20 while buying 2 books and 5 apples, right? Okay. So now we need to find out the solution. We need to find out, how much maybe the books cost or the apples cost. And let's say that they give us the price of the apples. Let's say that they tell us that each apple costs, let's say that each apple costs $1. And we want to find out how much does it cost for the books, right? So we want to start with an expression. Number one, we have 2 books. So maybe we can use the B, right? We can say 2B plus, the word end is a plus, 5 apples. So 5A, the first letter of the word, or you can use X and Y, A and B, C and D, any variables you like. Total is the word equal. So everything is equal to $20. So there is the $20 total. So we grabbed 2 books. We grabbed 5 apples. Together, they cost $20. We give the cashier $20. But we were wondering, like, how much did I pay for the books? A lot of times we buy things, but we don't necessarily know exactly how much are we spending. Maybe we're not careful. And we want to be sure that we know exactly what's going on before we even pay for the total. That's how critical thinking develops, right? And so we wanted to know about the books, but in order to do that, we hope that we know what's going on with the apples. And we do. They tell us that each apple is costing us $1. So I think that is very helpful here, because knowing that the apple is $1, we can go here and replace the A with 1. So that means the equation becomes 2B plus 5 times 1 equals to 20. Okay, so I'm going to erase a little bit up here. So I'm going to move this solution to the top of the page here. And so going back to this, we have 2B plus 5 times 1, which is 5, equals 20. So that's our next step in here, that we knew how much the apples were. You cannot solve with 2 unknowns one equation, right? So an equation is about one thing that you're not actually familiar with and you're looking for it. If you have multiple things, then the word problem must be giving you some of those values somewhere in the reading. So we have to make sure we're very careful as to what we're reading and such. So now let me go and erase the bottom part, and we are going to solve this equation. We're going to solve it in a very simple way. There are very complex ways to solve equations, and that's okay. We're going to be learning those as well as our class progresses. But we want to solve things basic, right? We want to find out this b right here. What is b? 2 times what? Plus 5 equals 20. I spending $20, right? So let's assume that the book maybe is $10. If the book is $10, then does that work? Well, then 2 times 10 is 20. And then 20 plus 5 is 25. So that'll be too much. So I think maybe we should go with a price that's a little less, right? Another way to do this is to say, well, let's clean up a little bit this equation. Maybe there's a lot of stuff going on. Let's get rid of this 5, right? Let's minus the 5. And when you do stuff in an equation, think of it as the old-fashioned scale, like the weighing scale. If you're going to do something on one side, you have to do the same thing on the other side as well. So now the 5's cancel. You have 2b. And then on the other side, 20 minus 5 is 15. So maybe now it's a little easier. 2 times what gives you 15? We know 2 times 7. If b is equal to 7, 2 times 7 is 14. If we try b being equal to 8, 2 times 8 is 16. So 7 gives you 14, 8 gives you 16. So maybe, what if it's 7.5? 2 times 7.5 is 15. So we found it. We found the answer, that the book is $7.50. So we had pretty much apples and books. We bought 2 different things, just like my background here today. And we knew the price of the apples. We wanted to find out how much the books cost. We knew how much total we paid into this. We paid $20. So there is a lot of back and forth that we're doing in this video. But again, the key when you're solving word problems is, what can we do when we read a word problem, right? So keep calm. Don't worry about how much time you're using in the beginning. Just try to set it up. Set it up through an expression, and then turn the expression into an equation, which you eventually have to solve. So you read a word problem, which is very common in mathematics. That's part of the interpretation and the translation. The calculator is not that helpful when we're solving word problems, because the calculator doesn't, we don't know what to plug in on the calculator. So we have to use our critical thinking skills. So we read the word problem, we translate it into an expression, and then we turn it into an equation, which eventually we solve. It's a 1, 2, 3 step. Read it, set it up as an expression, and solve the equation. Hopefully, this can make your interpretation of those word problems a little simpler. Don't be afraid of them. Face them, read them, and do your best as far as setting them up. So I believe in you, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.